Okay, I think we should slowly start as we have only 1 hour today, not 1 hour and a half, so I must take care of the timing. And I see there are quite some people connected already, 41, and here in the room, knowing that a lot of people maybe left already yesterday because of all the strikes. But good morning, everybody. So welcome to our interweb session on fish-related issues, also to the maybe new members of this group. I'm happy to welcome there too. We will start today's session with the appointment of Caroline Roos as a new vice president of this intergroup. The intergroup board recently nominated her as a candidate for this post due to her very proactive involvement in the activities of the animal welfare intergroup since really the beginning of the term. And our first presentation today will then be about the European Citizen Initiative Stop Finning, Stop the Trade. So we have with us, and I'm also very happy about that, welcome, Niels Kluge, the spokesperson and coordinator of this recently validated ECI. And he will really speak about the political process now ahead and the role that we can have as MEPs and the European Parliament and how we can support and promote really now the legislative follow-up. And the second presentation will be dedicated to PESH, a draft report on the implementation of the common fisheries policies. And there I'm happy also to welcome Douglas Wally, the Fish Welfare Senior Program Leader at the Eurogroup for Animals, and he will present proposals for the inclusion of fish welfare-related concerns in this draft report by Mr. Gabriel Mato from the EPP. Just two brief announcements before we start today's program. I would like to briefly inform you about the initiative of two working groups of this intergroup. First of all, we have the labeling working group that has finalized its manifesto now on animal welfare labeling, which will be sent to the European Commission. All those who want to support this initiative can, of course, co-sign this. And then also good news regarding the working groups. We have the working group in support of the European Citizens Initiative for Free Europe, and this will have its first meeting on the 25th January at 11:30. So also note this in your agenda if you want to participate there. Just to information, we also sent those two letters that we promised in the last animal welfare group. I think we send it always to the members when we make those letters, or can we do that? So just that they are informed.
Request,
yeah. So remember about the horses, we sent this to the Ministry of Agriculture of France, and then also the letter to the Commission in order to ban this use of blood, the ECG, that we banned that in Europe. So those letters went also out yesterday, I think. So work done, homework done. So, but now I come to the very first point. As I said, today is the appointment of Caroline Roos as Vice President, and it's really a pleasure for me to give the floor to my dear colleague Caroline to shortly speak about her motivations for becoming a Vice President of this intergroup and to tell us a little bit more maybe about her animal welfare related activities. Very shortly, for 3 minutes, Caroline, max, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Tini.
Thank you very much indeed. Caroline Roos is my name. It's my first term as a member of the European Parliament, member of the Fisheries Committee, coordinator for the Greens within the Fisheries Committee. I was member of the Committee of Inquiry on Transport of Live Animals, coordinator for the Greens then on that Committee of Inquiry. When it comes to my commitment to animal welfare, it goes back some time. I worked as a volunteer within the Animal Welfare Association in France in my teens. I have a delphinarium, a dolphin aquarium. Interest, we tried to put an end to keeping dolphins in aquaria. We're also active when it comes to putting an end to corrida. As I say, I was involved in the Committee of Inquiry on Transport of Live Animals. We were active in Italy, Spain, France, on the issue of export of live animals, animals on the hoof. So really, this is my my most important sort of commitment to the work of the European Parliament, and I think what we need is to do more. I'd like to thank you for electing me as a Vice President. So I'm very committed to this work. As I say, it's one of my prime interests in terms of my involvement in the European Parliament.
Questions, or if there are questions, don't hesitate also to Caroline. Otherwise, we will proceed to the appointment by acclamation. So thank you very much, Caroline, to you, and also to all the others for this acclamation. So then we can go to the core business also of today regarding content, is the European Citizens Initiative, Stop Finning, Stop the Trade. Many of you will be aware that the ECI Stop Finning, Stop the Trade has been recently validated and can therefore enter the political process now, for which the Parliament's support will be essential. So it's not enough to have an ECI with enough signatures. Now the pressure must really go on, and I have with us, as I said already, the spokesperson and coordinator of this ECI. Congrats, by the way, Niels Kluge, and he will really enlighten us on what needs now to be done to support this very important initiative. Mr. Kluge, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, Madam Chair, dear honourable members of the Intergroup, it's my pleasure to have been invited to speak to you. And firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Niels Kluge. I live in the southern part of Germany, in Munich, and I'm a passionate diver for more than 10 years now, and my passion with diving started with sharks. I love those animals. I love to interact with them underwater. But after a few years of diving, I realized that not all of those sharks are really untouched. I saw hooks, I saw long lines, and I started to think about what is the impact on the ecosystem. And then I started to talk to other divers who were diving longer than I was. And I got the stories of sharks becoming fewer and fewer. The ecosystem is getting out of balance. And I started to question myself, why is that? And that was my way into shark conservation. And I started to work for organizations as a volunteer. And 2019, Canada, as one of the first major countries, installed a trade ban. And then we assessed the idea of a trade ban and what it would do to shark fin trade. And that was the start where I decided that the EU should now step in and take a lead role in shark conservation, and that the time is now ready to start something new on that topic. And yeah, we gained allies, we gained friends. I'm now here as the speaker for 100 NGOs who have been involved in this initiative, more than 1.1 million EU citizens. I can say most of the diving tourism industry, and lots of companies and individual supporters. Next slide, please. We all agree, I guess, this is what we would like the ocean to look like. A healthy ecosystem, sharks sitting on top of that, and playing their important role for marine ecosystems that are so important for us as humans to live on this planet. The reality, like I said, looks different. Next one, please. We're seeing sharks by millions on the hook. And the main reason to do so is to hunt them for their fins. That is the most profitable part. And it seems weird for conservationists like I am to get used to the idea that people are hunting an animal for this. When I first learned that a kilogram of these shark fins makes several €100 on the market, I was distressed. I thought to myself, well, we had the same thing with rhinos on land, we had the same thing with elephants, and we decided that it's not fair to hunt animals for small body parts and don't really need the rest of them. And the EU already took action and made a clear statement when they were discussing how shark finning should be faced in Europe. And this was stated in the fins naturally attached regulation. Next slide, please. They stated sharks are not a traditional European food, but they are a necessary element of European marine ecosystems. Next slide, please. We're not only facing an EU problem. I will now try to make you aware of the two sides of the problem. Outside of the EU, finning, the cutting of the shark fins and throwing the carcasses overboard, is still legal. It's a terrifying story to listen to, and it creates very strong pictures if you're not even using the shark and throwing it overboard. Shark fins can be imported, exported to and by the EU from any country that still allows finning. The problem is identifying those fins is very, very difficult. I have here on my table 10 shark fins. You can try to make out if you can identify only one of those shark species. I have to tell you, this is a real cargo going through Frankfurt Airport, and 9 out of the 10 were not allowed to trade. This is the problem where we are not having control over our own trade from external, and now we're coming to the internal problem. The EU has taken action and stopped finning in 2013 with the fins naturally attached regulation. So that bloody cutting of fins is not allowed anymore. The export numbers of shark fins from Europe have not dropped since. And now I'm asking you, is it still okay to hunt an animal only for their fins if we're taking away that official finning wording and stop cutting off the fins on the high seas and throwing the carcasses overboard? Just get back to land animals. Is it okay to hunt elephants for their ivory if we only find a way to eat elephant meat? To get it into the market somehow? Is that okay? Or is it still finning? The shark does not care if he's landed with the fins naturally attached or not. If we find a way to make use of that shark meat, if we mislabel shark meat and drop it into the market somehow, if we create a shark meat market just to continue with an unhealthy shark fin business. There's one solution. We need to prohibit shark fin trade in addition to the fins naturally attached regulation. Don't get me wrong. We still need control over fisheries. We still need fins naturally attached to get control over what is happening on the high seas. But in addition, we need to make shark fins worthless out there. If you cannot trade the fins anymore, the fins are worthless. Regardless of you're doing it illegally with finning or legal with fins naturally attached, the fins should not be part of the business anymore. Next slide, please. The EU has already taken action. It has committed in the EU Green Deal to marine conservation, and just recently put the requiem sharks, which are the sharks under most pressure of being caught for their fins, under trade protection from CITES COP90. So we're on a good way here, and the EU has clearly decided which way it wants to go. And we really appreciate that, and when we all saw that in our group of discussion, that CITES COP19, the EU and the European countries decided to bring requiem sharks on the table and to join that rally, we were really in appreciation because this is a strong statement here, which side we want to take. And next slide, please. Still, if we do not add a trade ban to fins naturally attached, to CITES COP19, we will still face this problem. You're a cargo officer now. 9 out of these 10 fins are CITES COP19 protected now. How can you measure what fin in this cargo will go through and what not? You don't have a chance. You have to hold the cargo, you have to do an expensive DNA testing, and if they find nothing, you will pay for the delay. How many cargo officers will take that risk? None. As long as we still have illegal fins on the market, and as long as species are being mixed, we have no way to enforce our own ambitions. And this is why we started Stop Finning, Stop the Trade. And this is the reason why, from our perspective, the answer is a trade ban, regardless to the species. Next slide, please. You all know probably, but I'm going to repeat it for those who are not so familiar with marine conservation. This is a picture from Hong Kong. This is where our fins end up for being dried. They're being exported, if it's EU fins, to Hong Kong to be dried in the hot sun. And this is a picture from one of the activists from Sea Shepherd taken up there. A few grams of those fins are put into the prestigious shark fin soup, and a shark fin soup costs between $70 and $100 on the market. So you see where the problem is. As long as the fins are the only thing that you can really make profitable money from, even if you're out there and just bycatching sharks, there is a tendency that you could maybe make use of those fins because they are really, really worth money here. We can only take that away, like that, with a trade ban. That makes it very easy for the fishermen outside on the high seas. Next slide, please. And still, like I also stated before, the reality in Europe is the same like it has been before 2013. There's reports, especially I remember one report from Traffic, that the only result of the fins naturally attached regulation was that the illegal fishing on the high seas was ending, or the finning on the high seas was ending, but with regard to shark conservation, it did not have any impact. The numbers have not dropped since. Next slide, please. And we can see that in any report. This is from the Traffic report from 2018. The numbers of shark catches have not dropped. This is only Spain, but any other exports have not dropped since. The world, next slide please, is moving to trade bans. And this is our chance to restore shark populations in the next 20 years to make the oceans the beauty and the paradise that I, as a diver, and many, many others in the tourism industry want to see. Next slide, please. And like said, the rest of the world is moving forward to trade bans. Canada started 2019. United Kingdom is right now in the process of adopting a shark fin bill, installing a trade ban. By the way, we started together with UK, as you might all remember, and we still have one member from United Kingdom in our Citizens Committee because we wanted to do this together. But due to the decision made in UK, the initiative had to go their own way there, and we are very happy to see that in United Kingdom they are also in the legislation period, and they will probably make it. And then in December 2022, under the Defense Authorization Act, shark fin ban, import and export was banned by the United States. I strongly urge you to support us here, and I know that we have good allies within the intergroup to support us on our way as European community to be the next highlight in shark protection. And I'm open for your questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much to you, Niels, for your initiative, for your very good presentation, pointing out again how important this ban would be also on trade. And now I open the floor. Please, if you have questions, remark, and Caroline is the first. Please, go ahead.
Merci Tilly.
Yes, thank you very much. Tilly, thank you, Niels, for your presentation and everything that you are doing in order to bring about a ban on finning and the trade in shark fins. The European Union has to take measures, and this is why...
I don't have the translation.
German?
German or English better?
Better?
Because I answer in English.
They used to make the louder.
Okay, thanks.
Oui, je disais merci.
Yes, I was just saying thank you very much for your presentation and all your actions and efforts moving towards the ban. The European Union must take measures, and this is why all of us are going to have to continue to bring pressure to bear on the Commission. Just one point of attention, we have to be careful not to open up the regulation and have a new one and not have an extension of the current legislation. What we need is new legislation, because I fear that if we open up what we already have, we'll have less at the end, if you see what I mean. So I feel that it is possibly better to have a new piece of legislation. I am coordinator in the Fisheries Committee for the Greens, and there is going to be an official hearing at the end of March on finning. It's going to be held at the Fisheries Committee at the end of March, and as the coordinator, I'm going to push very much for us to adopt a resolution. And so this is an appeal to the other members of other political groups to call on them for their support behind this resolution so that we can ban finning.
Merci beaucoup, Caroline, aussi pour ça.
Yes, thank you, Caroline, and thank you for that information. The Fisheries Committee, it's not always all that easy when we want to defend animal welfare. So it's a good idea to have a hearing. Niels Fuglsang.
Have the floor, Niels.
Thank you very much, Tilly, and thank you, Niels, for very interesting information you've given us. I think this seems outrageous, and whatever we can do to help to promote such a trade ban, I think we should do. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, could you tell us something about, there are many types of sharks, obviously, and that's one of the points that you have. Can you tell us something about how many of them are threatened species and how many are not? To which degree can we say that sharks are threatened? That's one point. Second point, maybe you said it, but this citizen initiative, how far is it in the process? Maybe I didn't catch it, but how many signatures do we have, and where is it in the process right now? Yes, then I had a third question. You said that a lot of the finning has stopped in the EU, but the problem is really the trade, as far as I understand. But you also had some figures, if I understood correctly, that we are exporting a lot of fins from the EU. And how can this be if if the finning has dropped in the EU, but then we are still exporting, or how does that work? Thank you.
Yes, reply to that, and then I have also other questions coming up. But I think it's the easiest you replied to this one already, and then we listen to the next. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very, very good questions. In the short time, you cannot just mention everything, so very thankful for those questions. Currently, for the first question, currently out of 500 shark species, we have 167 who are endangered. And there's studies that especially for the high sea sharks, which are the most important for the ecosystem, we have a drop of 95% in the last 40 years. So it is really dramatic. And it does not really require much understanding of marine ecosystems to get the point that many of those species ending up on long lines have a very, very long maturity rate. So if you become mature after like 15 or 20 years and you're industrially fished, then you do not recover as fast as smaller fishes do. And that is one of the huge problem, and that is why we really have to take a huge turnaround, at least for the pressure to become caught for the fins. And to have a chance, if you end up in the nets, to be thrown back as unrelevant bycatch. How far is our initiative? We have been validated by all 27 EU countries now. We have more than 1.1 million votes, and we have submitted the validation on the 11th of January. We will receive the hearing by the EU Commission on 6th of February. And I totally agree with the before mentioned statement. It is a pity that we do not have a single trade expert within the hearing from the committee, that they are just focusing on fisheries. And this is what we always stated in direction of the Commission. We're not asking for a fishery regulation. We're asking for a trade regulation. I know that in the beginning of the initiative, when we handed that in, we were talking about an extension of fins naturally attached. We're not politicians. We did not know who was responsible for putting the legislation in place, but actually what we need is a trade regulation, a new one that is putting another element to fins naturally attached for fisheries, which is good in itself because it solves one problem on the high seas. And that leads me directly to the export question that you just had. The numbers have not dropped because the fishery system has adopted to it. So ships are still going out, still catching sharks. The ship is loaded way earlier than before. They're coming in more often. That is something that we can see because they have to. And what happened in the European market is that they started to make more use of the sharks. So we found in DNA testings, there's one good work on that in UK when they were still belonging to the EU. They started mislabeling fish. Instead of putting a certain species into fish and chips in UK, they found that there was shark meat in there. So the discussion we're leading here with the fishing industry is the same like I mentioned with the elephants. It's not okay to continue an unhealthy business for fins if we only find a way to eat the meat. Like with elephants. I would not want to eat elephant meat. So that is why the numbers did not drop. They just found ways to make use of the meat. It's a bit more expensive. They might make a bit less money right now, but still the business is only profitable because of the fins. And if we take that away, we have a chance for real shark protection.
Thank you very much to you both, Niels. And then I give the floor to Peters Astrophagous. Sorry.
It's fine. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for your presentation, and I have two questions. Some fishing communities, traditionally claim that it's important for them to survive. To what extent shark finning is important for them financially? Which share of their income, especially for those intensively fishing communities, I suppose, might be Spanish or I don't know which ones more, contribute to their survival, financial survival? Do you have any statistics in this regard? And secondly, well, sharks probably exposed not just to thinning risk, but something else. But if you list kind of factors of risk for shark numbers in the ocean, to what extent finning is a priority, or most important factor for shark numbers? To keep as high as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Also covers a good aspect that I was not able to put into my presentation. For the first question, how important is it for fishing communities, and how much does it endanger livelihood for fishermen? That's a good question. And first statement on that side is we do not want to end fishing. Every fisherman who wants to go out, and there's a traditional market for shark meat in some countries, everyone who wants to do that and continue fishing sharks for their living can do so, because it can still be done. Fins naturally attached, you can use the shark within the country. As long as you don't export the fins, we're fine with it. The problem comes with the export, and yes, I agree, I think it might be important for some fishing industries to make money out of shark fin trade. But if you're looking into those businesses, the desired target species actually are tuna and swordfish. They don't catch tuna and swordfish anymore. And we were having this discussion about livelihood for fishermen, about tuna and about swordfish. So if we're taking that discussion again, for sharks then, they will have no sharks to fish from in 20 years. This livelihood discussion is leading us to nowhere, because we're emptying the ocean species by species and telling we need to continue because we need to protect livelihood. We had that experience in Italy with some corals in the 80s, where we were having the livelihood discussion, and we had that until the corals were gone. And then they did not have a base for living. We need to get to a sustainable fishing industry, and doing that for fins is not sustainable. So we don't have anything against fishermen. The factors of risk, that's a difficult one. There have been a few studies. I remember one for sharks in the Mediterranean. The factors are so multiple, I don't dare to do a statement about percentages. We're taking away the marine ecosystems from sharks from different directions, from our own habitats close to the coastal line, from fishing on other species, from longlining in the open seas. But if we're taking the focus on the big shark species and on those, they were targeted for their fins. This did not happen accidentally. And from that perspective, it becomes more and more irrelevant if it's the only factor, or 90% or 80% or 50%. It's an important factor because we're really targeting them for their fins. And if you have more interest, just contact me. I will send you that one study in the Mediterranean, because that one really shows pretty good that it's numerous factors that are playing an important role for sharks. I will do. Sharks in the Mediterranean, yeah, will do.
Thank you very much again, also for your questions and your response on that. I don't see any other question now on sharks, so we can move on the PESH draft report on the implementation of the common fisheries policy and proposals also there, including fish welfare relating. So Gabriel Mato is the rapporteur of this draft report. He regrets that he won't be able to be with us, but he is looking afterwards the recording, he said, of this session and is open to consider the suggestions that will be made. So I'm very happy again to welcome Douglas Wally, the Fish Welfare Senior Program Leader at the Eurogroup for Animals, to list up the proposals for adding fish welfare-related experts to the draft report. You have the floor, Douglas, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for your attention and the opportunity to come and talk with you today about this implementation report, and with it, the topic of animal welfare in fisheries. And then I mean fish welfare and decapod crustaceans and cephalopod mollusks. So we're the target species, animal welfare of the target species in fisheries. Next slide, please. So I'll take a few minutes to say something on the process, why is the Parliament working on this implementation report, quickly what's in the draft report. Then I want to give some examples of welfare issues in fisheries and what look like missed opportunities that the common fisheries policy has failed to address or missed out on by not properly recognising the welfare of the target species. There's certainly room for optimism, and so I will come on to a note about why we can see a brighter future for fish in the common fisheries policy. Next slide, please. So it's a decade since the common fisheries policy was put in place. There's a deadline in the regulation for the Commission to report to Parliament and Council on the functioning of that policy by the end of 2022. A slightly missed deadline, but publication is expected and imminent there. And with that, the Parliament is simultaneously working on its own implementation report on the common fisheries policy. That's the report title today, and the draft has been published, and it's scheduled for its first discussion in the PESH committee next week, and then processed to go from there. Next slide, please. A quick summary, which I hope will meet Member Masso's approval when he watches us back. In quite a big policy area, it's a fairly focused and shortish report, just a few pages. Its headline, its main message is a regret that the implementation of the common fisheries policy has been so focused, primarily focused on the environmental aspects of the policy. And there's a call there for a rebalancing and equilibrium between the environmental objectives and the other objectives that the policy has, especially socio-economic, for example. Some specifics from the report. It calls for more flexible landing obligations. So that's the actions against the discarding of fish and better incentives behind those landing obligations. In multi-annual plans, these fisheries management measures developed by member states and by the Commission, calling for more flexibility and an increased role for socio-economic considerations in those fisheries management plans. Also calling for enhanced involvement of the advisory councils. These are stakeholder bodies, stakeholder platforms with expertise in different fisheries, calling for a greater role there in policy making and a greater connection between those stakeholder bodies and the Parliament. That's not really there at the moment. And the report recognises, it highlights climate change as an issue that is not explicit and not addressed in the common fisheries policy, but very important trend going forwards. Next slide, please. Thank you. So where's fish welfare and where should it be, or aquatic animal welfare? Article 13 of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union requires that fisheries policy shall pay full regard to the welfare of animals. And in the Common Fisheries Policy, which came after the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union, there's a mention in the recital that the CFP should pay full regard where relevant, and then that's the end of it. There's nothing in the objectives or provisions of the regulation to recognise that or to support any activities in that area. So some examples of what's not happened, really, what's happening or what's not happened as a result of that lack of real recognition of welfare. And with some little technical assistance, can I play the video? And this is a video, thank you, collected by German organisation Soko Tierschutz, and it just demonstrates some of the welfare issues on fishing boats, just as I will very quickly describe to you some of the issues that exist. And we can divide it basically between the capture process and the killing process. There's a lot of variety. There's different boats, different species, different methods, but it basically comes down to the duration of the capture experience or the methods and the severity of their impacts. So if I take a couple of examples of fishing methods, with a trawl boat, that will last several hours. The fish, they're chased by the net, they become exhausted. Once they're exhausted, they fall into the back of the net. Then they get injuries from the net and injuries and asphyxiation from crushing under the weight of the other fish collecting in the net there. Nils made a couple of mentions earlier about longline fishing. With longline fishing, again, duration-wise, that line will be in the water possibly for days. The fish is on a hook, it gets injuries from the hook, it exhausts itself from attempts to escape, making the hook injuries worse. It's exposed to predators it can't escape from. So all sorts of issues attached with the capture, and when it comes to the killing of the fish, all too often they are left to suffocate in air, or they might be put live into ice, which is painful for the fish, and will, for many species, it will still take several hours to die of suffocation. Fish might otherwise be live, cut and processed alive. Can we return to the slides, please? Thank you. So, and I'll give two other examples where I think opportunities have been missed because the Common Fisheries Policy didn't really have its welfare objectives in place. And I think one of them comes with the shark finning that we've heard about just now. The regulation focused on ending the removal of fins from sharks, and it had that very fisheries focused around implementing this and controlling this through fisheries programs and landing. And as described, lo and behold, there was a loophole, and the loophole was the trade, and the trade continues. And I think there, if welfare had been on the fisheries agenda, if it was recognised as an issue at the time the shark finning regulations were made, we would have had the precedent of the ban of trade of seal fur, which the EU put in place back in 2009. And the moral and ethical case for the welfare reasoning behind that regulation, that was the critical element in that being WTO compliant and bringing those trade rules onto other people's products and beyond EU fisheries. So I think really that, unfortunately, 10 years later, fortunately, we've got an ECI today. Unfortunately, we came to the point where 10 years later, we had to fix that regulation that wasn't working. And labelling, the CFP has its own labelling requirements. They're quite advanced in requiring method of production labelling, but the welfare objective's not there, and so the welfare information is not there. For example, there's the category there, hook and line fishing, and that doesn't tell the consumer if that was long line, with all of the implications that I described before, or if it was hook and line, if it was pole and line, sorry, which is like angling, the shortest capture duration, already individual handling of fish, you can kill those fish quickly. So there's a best and worst method, and the EU regulations haven't addressed it. And all of the capture method problems that I touched on a moment ago, that's something that the technical measures regulation really could be addressing. But again, with that welfare objective not in place, it's not on the agenda. Next slide, please. And that's the video. If you just next slide again. Thank you. So is there a brighter future of fish? We mustn't allow ourselves to think fisheries are a uniquely difficult or impossible area to work. There's already examples of improvements we've seen. The industry developed the use of pumps to pump fish on board as opposed to hauling them out in nets with the injury and crushing and asphyxiation that comes with that. And that's just through innovation and voluntary measures being adopted on quite a number. It's a common technology on fishing boats now. The manufacturers of electrical stunning equipment for fish, now they report they've sold over 100 machines onto wild capture boats in European waters. So that technology is coming through. And we see on the market there is a price premium for the product quality gains that are associated with shorter capture, less stressful capture, or good killing practices. And so what we'd like to see is a common fisheries policy aligned with the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union. I will say with that, the common fisheries policy it has very important environmental objectives and measures in it. We do not think the common fisheries policy should be opened or changed at the moment, and the important work that it's doing doesn't need to be disturbed, but welfare should be better recognised. The research and subsidy programmes can already be supporting welfare improvements. We'd like to see consumers get more information, and indeed, there's more of a place to include welfare in discussion of fisheries management measures. Next slide. I think I'm wrapping up, if not wrapped up. Thank you very much. I very much welcome your questions.
Thank you very much to you, Douglas. And I open the floor again to remarks, questions, and Caroline, go ahead, please.
Oui, je voulais
Yes, I just wanted to take the floor to thank you very much indeed for your statement. I haven't anything particular to say, but in that I sit on the Fisheries Committee, in spite of this Article 13 of the Treaty of the Function of the EU, we have nothing when it comes to animal welfare in the Common Fisheries Policy. In the CFP, we've got studies on sensitivity of fish, on octopus. There was an own initiative report. As the fish farming, there's very, very little on fish welfare. And in the Fisheries Committee, on a number of occasions, we've asked for hearings to be organised on animal welfare, fish welfare, but it's extremely difficult to get hearings organised on fish welfare or animal welfare in the Fisheries Committee. So I don't think we can continue like this. And we shouldn't really exclude animal welfare when talking about the CFP. So I think we need to continue to exert pressure. I don't understand why we're sort of so behind when it comes to fish. I mean, fish are sort of animals, are living beings. And if I talk about fish, when people talk about sort of hens, battery hens, dogs, and when I talk about fish, I mean, well, it's just a fish, but I mean, a fish is a living being. And I think that's a message that we certainly got to try and get across.
Yes, that's exactly also, Douglas, what you were saying in your proposals, that we need to empower consumers with welfare information. And also there was this very good campaign by the Eurogroup, Rethink Fish. I think that we should relaunch campaigns like that by better informing that also fish and all these ocean animals also suffer and have feelings. Yeah, Niels, you had a remark you wanted to make.
Thank you. Yes, I get a little bit desperate and frustrated watching and listening, not because of you, but the content of what you're saying. I eat fish myself, and I have to admit, I probably j'ai pensé que oui, c'est juste
I thought actually.
un animal avec des sentiments.
It was a sentient animal, an animal with feelings.
It is. We know scientifically that it is. And so from what the video showed and from what you told us, I mean, there's a lot of suffering involved here. And so I would like to, the last slide you had on the future for, perhaps a brighter future for the fish. Could you tell us something, I mean, in an elevator speech or a short speech, I mean, what would be good fish animal welfare if we still catch fish? Is there a way to do it so that we don't have this suffering? I mean, if you should focus, what would be the most important thing that we could do? Thank you.
Oh, I don't need that. Sorry. Well, indeed, lots of suffering, and it bears mention the number of animals involved, because it's certainly in the trillions and just beyond the scale of other animals that we're using and eating. What does a good welfare capture process looks like? It's quick. It happens as fast as possible. The physical injuries and stress are as little as possible, and then a slaughter method is used as fast as possible. And the closest to a best case, a best example out of that would be pole and line caught. Tuna is the most available pole and line caught fish, but others where you're basically, somebody has a pole and a rod and they're angling, they catch a fish at a time, they bring it on board, and if they then killed that fish in an effective way, that would be as good as we can see it getting. If you look at a method like trawling, or seine netting, methods for catching huge volumes of fish, you want to reduce how long the net's in the water if you can. You want to reduce the speed of towing if that's possible. You want to be, once you've finished the tow and you lift the fish out of the water, you want to be careful about how fast you lift the fish, because they will suffer pressure-related injuries and if they're brought up too fast. So. And I think fishing boats have never had welfare in mind when they designed and installed the equipment. So fish, they get stuck on a conveyor belt, they get caught in this, they fall out of that. I think there's low-hanging fruit, so to speak, just by going into that environment with welfare in mind and applying that to the processes involved. And if I could go back to Member Roos's comments, and indeed, just to reinforce again the absence of welfare in discussion, and just to bring out more, a couple of examples where there is some fish welfare in the common fisheries policy is down in some of the sub-regulations and activities and the funding mechanisms. They've done some work in aquaculture, and that has been driven because farming policy has, and agriculture policy has welfare, and that has sort of overspilled and overlapped, and we can see that within the common fisheries policy, but nothing has driven that for fisheries, and it's really some kind of recognition that's needed there for fisheries.
Thank you very much, and I see time is running again, as we have only 1 hour. It's only two minutes left today. Yeah, it's really astonishing when we see these images, how fishery is done, and that since 2013 we have a regulation that says that there should be full regard, where relevant, I never like those words, of to animal welfare here, so that there's not a lot that has been done. Just for me, that I'm clear about the timeline. So now it's still possibility to make amendments to this draft reform of the implementation of the CFP, right? So we can still, as intergroup, and especially those members that are in the PESH committee, submit amendments. So we definitely, but just remind me the timeline. I think you said it, but.
So there's a PESH meeting on 23rd January, so next week, and it's first discussion, and during that meeting they will establish the timeline for amendments.
Okay. So we are still in time for doing that. That's great. Thank you very much for being with us, to both of you. I mean, the very successful ECI, Stop Finning, Stop the Trade, not only finning, but in general, Stop the Trade, has provided us really points how we as European Parliament can now also make this initiative really to be a success. And the final goal should definitely be, thank you very much also, Caroline, for that we have a specific law that would really ban finning and also the trade. Such a law would then set really a precedent and represent a major contribution for better conservation of sharks, not only in the EU, but also in the world. So we will really follow that, and congratulations again for this ECI, because speaking about sharks, it's a bit like speaking about wolves. It certainly was not easy to gather so much signatures. So congratulations again to you. And thank you very much again also for your very, very precious words that work that you are doing for the fish. Douglas Welly suggestions really for the inclusion of welfare-related concerns in the Patch-Ini report are very, very welcome. So thank you very much for all of that. And to all of you, thank you very much for being with us. Take care. I hope you can, despite all those strikes, getting home safely. Take care. And we will have the next Animal Welfare Intergroup on the 16th of February 2023. And there we will speak about the presentation of the report on cage-free transition schemes in 5 domains. And then we will also present a short footage by the French animal rights organization L214 on the forced feeding. Yes, I hope I did not forget something. I think I did forget something. Yeah, and thanks to I must say, I never did that. Thank you, Christine, for reminding me. The ECR vice chair who arranged us for this room and she's there. So thank you very much. That was the note I wanted to mention. So thank you that we can have this room and that you are organizing that. Thank you very, very much to you. Okay, all the best to all of you. Take care. And thank you very much for our experts for having been with us.